Sometimes it works. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Shimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesa Sanyavadi Paschacha Desatarine Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. A very much loved and remembered and recited section of Srimad Bhagavatam is the prayers of Queen Kunti. We spent some time yesterday just to begin the dialogue, going around the room and asking each person present to say something that they knew about Queen Kunti. So since we did that yesterday, and some of you weren't with us yesterday, I'll just do it very simply. Queen Kunti was the mother of the 5 Pandavas. Queen Kunti got a benediction when she was an unmarried young girl. Durvasa Muni was visiting the king's palace, and everyone was intimidated. Look out, Durvasa Muni. But Kunti wasn't afraid. She cooked for him. He liked her mood and her cooking so much, he gave her a benediction. And the benediction was that later in your life, you'll have difficulty having children. So I'm going to give you a mantra that you can recite, and from reciting this mantra, you can call any demigod and receive children through that demigod. So Durvasa Muni left. Curious young unmarried girl. How is this going to work? She tried it out. She called the sun god. And sure enough, there was the sun god. And Kunti said, "What? I'm unmarried. How is this going to work? Don't worry. So many promises. Your pregnancy will be immediate, and your delivery will be immediate. And so don't worry. And your virginity won't be lost, so don't worry, and don't worry." So she had called Surya, and Surya produced a son. And the son was Karna, because the son was born through the ear of Kunti. No detail of exactly how that transpired, but Karna was born. Karna was born. And Kunti was highly embarrassed. And so, not knowing what to do, she put the newborn child in a basket and floated the basket down a river. And the basket was found by a fisherman, right? Fisherman? Huh? Chariot driver. Yes, chariot driver. Thank you. And he raised the son as if it was his own child. And Karna didn't find out till much later that he was not the chariot driver's son, because he was, as the chariot driver's son, was not in part of the royal family, although he was part of the royal family. Some tension. And then later, 5 other sons, without details. She, Kunti, was the sister of Krishna's father. Krishna's father was Vasudeva, and the Pandavas' mother was Kunti, and so the Pandavas and Krishna were first cousins. And she, Kunti, and Vasudeva were brother and sister. So a natural affection between them. And many, 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 many things about Kunti. Lots and lots and lots of difficulty. So the scene that's on the screen here is one of the difficulties Krishna came and resolved. He had a habit of taking care of the difficulties of Kunti and her sons. So when Yudhisthira was formally installed on the throne as the emperor of the world, it was time for Krishna to return back to Dwarka from where he had come. And there he's on his chariot. Daruka, his chariot driver, is ready to go. And Kunti comes through the crowd and offers prayers. Now, she doesn't explicitly say, please don't go, but that's her message, please don't go. And in the course of these prayers, she's revealing her relationship with Krishna and her understanding of who Krishna is through the medium of her bhakti. Because we discussed this yesterday. The nature of bhakti is 2 things are automatically or byproducts of bhakti: knowledge and detachment, jnana vairagya, causeless knowledge, causeless detachment. And she has profound realizations about Krishna, or the truths about Krishna, Krishna Tattva. So her prayers are filled with that. And that's what we did yesterday. We covered the first couple of prayers, and now we're ready for the next couple of prayers. Now there's a recording, and assuming technology works, then we're going to hear a nice devotee, Sri Rupa and her team, and they're with the musical accompaniment in the background, and her voice, and then a pause, and then response, and then she'll say the verse again, and then we can respond, so we can sing the verse twice. And let's see if technology works this time.
तथा परमहंसा नाममदात्मनां भक्तियोगविधानार्थं पश्यमहि स्त्रिया तथा परमहंसा नाममदात्मनां भक्तियोगविधानार्थं तथा परमहंसा नाममदात्मनां भक्तियोगविधानार्थं तं पश्यमहि स्त्रिया
Pause.
तथा परमहंसा नाममदात्मनां भक्तियोगविधानार्थं पश्यमहि स्त्रिया.
So, tata, you yourself descend to propagate the transcendental science of devotional service unto the hearts of the advanced transcendentalists and mental speculators who are purified by being able to discriminate between matter and spirit, how then can we, women, know you perfectly? No, she knows him perfectly, but she's characterizing herself as being an unqualified person because of her gender. Now, she's just being humble, and she's most qualified, and she's, in the course of her prayers, she's revealing so many truths about Krishna that many persons don't understand. So she understands through the medium of bhakti. The verse, Vasudeve Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojataha Janiyata Ashu Vairagyam Jnanam Cha Yadahaitukam. So the last line, Jnanam Cha Yadahaitukam. So detachment and knowledge arise causelessly, ahaitu or ahetu, without cause. There's not, bhakti has no material cause. Bhakti has nothing material that can stop it. And when one engages in bhakti, then two things, many things, but two things, knowledge, jnana, and vairagya, causelessly. They're a byproduct of, they're part and parcel of, they're a subset of bhakti. So when Vasudeva Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojataha, when one becomes somehow situated by good association and complying with the standards of bhakti, situated in bhakti, then causelessly knowledge and detachment arise. So she's not super scholar, but she's highly learned because her devotion is very advanced. When in Bhagavad Gita, in addition to what it says in Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, Krishna comes to give shelter or protection to the devotees. Pritranaya sadhanam vinashaya chaduskritam. Dharma sangsthapanartaya, these three purposes. To give protection to the devotees, to annihilate the miscreants, and to restore the principles of Dharma. So Krishna does that. Krishna does that very naturally. And so she's saying the same. Krishna descends to propagate transcendental knowledge of devotional service unto advanced transcendentalists and to mental speculators. So mental speculators are a little more challenging because they take something and they want to spin it with their mental speculation. So there are advanced transcendentalists, there's mental speculators, there's yogis, and there are persons that Krishna comes to give Krishna bhakti to, transcendental knowledge about him. So she's contrasting herself to those elevated persons. How can we, women, hope to see you? This is Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's paraphrasing or his commentary. The object of bhakti for the omniscient liberated sages. His commentary. I am hopeless as a woman. Can even the omniscient sages, Paramahamsas, who worship you with attraction for your sweet pastimes, being ignorant of the truth about your pastimes, know the intricacies of your pastimes? They may be very elevated, so it's contrasting. They may be very elevated in theoretical knowledge, but if there's that theoretical knowledge capacity, give them access to pastimes of Krishna and the intricacies of Krishna Tattva? Not really. Amalatmanam refers to those who are free from the contamination of material gunas. This is just a cut and paste from Vishwanath Chakrabarti Thakur's commentary. How can we see you, who are the object of Bhakti Yoga practice, Bhakti Yoga Vidhanartam, for the Paramahamsas? That the Paramahamsas worship the Lord has been explained in an earlier verse, the earlier verse in an earlier chapter, chapter 7. Chapter 7, text number 10, it has to do, this is Vyasadev's mature realization. So let's go back. Vyasadeva compiled the Vedas. Vyasadeva is a incarnation of the personality of Godhead. And his particular function is the literary incarnation. That is, he seeing the future, because he was present when Krishna was present. So that means he was present during Dwapara Yuga. And he looked ahead into the next Yuga, which is Kali Yuga. And looking ahead, he saw, yikes, Kali Yuga is bad. And he lists the characteristics of how they're bad. And he was concerned. How are people in the age of Kali going to continue to take shelter of religious principles? Because after this age, when Krishna departs, religious principles will depart with him. So what to do? So he considered one of the symptoms of the age of Kali is poor memory. And one of the remedies for poor memory is you write something down. I learned that from Prabhupada, said it over and over. If you want to remember something, write it down. Following what Vyasadeva did, but in principle, it's true. To remember something, it's very, very helpful. Just the very act of writing it down, what to speak of, then you can refer to it later. Just write it down. Take notes or something that you want to remember, you write it down. And perfectly situated transcendentalists, they don't need to write things down because they have excellent memories. So Vyasadeva took the sound vibration of the Vedas and put it in a written form. There's a nice description. After having completed all that, he sat back to evaluate how did it come out, like you might do when you do anything. I'm sure our cook, after preparing everything and offering to the deities, she's going to be curious. People like it. How did it come out? Or something. So he was contemplating, how did it come out? Putting in a written form the vast Vedas. And he was feeling something. This is from Canto 1, Chapter 7. This reference is at the bottom. And he felt dissatisfied. And he was sufficiently directly glorifying Krishna. So he gave him 2 instructions. This is Canto 1, Chapter 7. Little summary. 2 things. 1, go by the bank of the river Saraswati, touch the water for purification, and engage yourself in complete samadhi, meditation upon the absolute truth. 2, something will come into your mind, a realization will come into your mind. Let that something that comes into your mind in samadhi be the subject matter of your next composition. So that was Srimad Bhagavatam, was the result of that meditation. Vyasadev's mature realization of the absolute truth, the personality of Godhead. And the Atmaramas Chamunayo, that verse, is part of that section. There were 4 verses that are written, that describe what his realization was, and this is one of those verses. The perfectly satisfied, the Atma Rama personalities, persons who are fully satisfied within, and the Munis, they worship the personality of Godhead, which is what he was doing. So, the reference from Vishwanath Chakra, I'm just giving a little background on what you see on the screen. What you see on the screen is Vishwanath Chakrabarti Thakur's commentary on this verse of Kunti's prayers. The Bhakti Yoga is the stage of perfection. But when Bhakti Yoga reaches the stage of perfection, it's a very elevated position. And the very elevated position, Kunti is comparing herself to being ineligible to experience that which the very elevated persons can experience. Although she's the very elevated person, she's more elevated than the great sages because of her pure devotion. So here's Prabhupada's words describing this. The Lord is so kind that he does not show special favor only to one who is a great philosopher. He knows the sincerity of purpose. So we all live our lives, and there are purposes to be fulfilled in the course of what we do. And the yogis and the mental speculators and different persons, they do what they do for a purpose. And then Kunti does what she does for a purpose. Or Kunti's purpose is the topmost purpose. That is simply satisfaction of the personality of Godhead. And one who is in pursuit of that objective, there's a natural, another subset, which is humility. The way to approach Krishna requires humility. Say it the opposite. One who is proud isn't going to approach Krishna. Pride blocks the urge to approach Krishna or spiritual representatives of Krishna. Jiva Goswami writes on this same topic in Bhagavat Sandarbha, and the descent of Krishna, just as mentioned in this verse that we just sang together. Why does the Supreme Personality of Godhead come to this world? He comes so that embodied souls, Sharirinam, may learn to fix their thoughts on his lotus feet, and, most importantly, so the devotees may taste the happiness of devotional service. It's a nice explanation from a different angle of vision. This is, Jiva Goswami is one of our greatest of commentators. Referring to this verse, there's another way of describing the purpose of Krishna's appearance, as discussed in in verse 20 of this chapter. So humility, although eminently qualified, she's speaking as if she's not. And that's part of her qualification, the humility that she carries. And, the facts about Krishna's position, she also carries that. But although it's very heavy in weight, she's speaking it very simply. She's a very expert person. So now she's going to speak something about Nanda and Yasoda, or Devaki, because her brother's sister, her brother Vasudeva became the father of Krishna. So These are different characteristics of Krishna. It's a celebrated verse. Just a little sharing. Many years ago, I was a new devotee, many years ago. And one of the things that we did, I remember very clearly, that the temple was on Henry Street in Brooklyn. There was a rented building. And we went every day to different parts of the city on Harinam Sankirtan, every day, every day, every day. And one of our favorite spots was by St. Patrick's Cathedral, because there's a little indentation. We could be away from, interfering with the flow of the traffic, and people could stop and observe and participate and listen. And, it was a really good spot. And so one of the devotees, along with chanting Hare Krishna mantra, would sing this and the next verse, next sloka, because it's just names of Krishna. That's what this verse is. So reciting the verse carries those memories for me. But it's, names of Krishna. So let's hear the singing.
Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nanda Gopa Kumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha.
Chorus.
Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nanda Kumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha. Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nanda Gopa Kumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha. Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nanda
So this is Kunti's heart. She is the aunt or the mother of her brother Vasudev's number one son, the cynosure of everyone's heart. And she understands him in many, many, many different ways. These are her prayers revealing, but here it's just being spoken in terms of names. So Krishnaya, unto Krishna. Vasudevaya, her brother Vasudev, he is the son of Vasudev. Devaki Nandanaya is the son of the Nanda and the cowherd men. Nandagopa Kumaraya, he is the Kumara, he's a cowherd boy in this particular stage of his life. So here's the Prabhupada's translation. Let me therefore offer my respectful obeisances unto the Lord, who has become the son of Vasudeva, the pleasure of Devaki, the boy of Nanda and the other cowherd men of Vrindavan, and the enlivener of the cows and the senses, Govindaya, the enlivener of the cows and the senses. Very nice picture. This is Nanda with Krishna on one side, Balaram on the other side. It's mealtime, so there's so many, 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 many cooked items. He is ready to feed Krishna, and Nanda is very happy to feed Krishna. And then there's musicians and singers and entertainers for the pleasure of Krishna after his long day of being in the forest with the cows. Again, this is Vishwanath Chakrabarti Thakur's translation and commentary. I repeatedly offer respects to Krishna, the son of Vasudeva, who gave joy to Devaki, who was a child of Nanda and satisfier of the senses of the gopis. Here's his commentary. Among all the avatars, you are the best. Though all those who have prema are fortunate, my brother Vasudeva was most fortunate, since you selected him as your father. That is the significance of the word Vasudeva, son of Vasudeva. And your mother, endowed with even more prema, is most fortunate. You made her more successful than all others by situating yourself in her womb alone. Thus, Kunti addresses Krishna as Devaki Nandana, he who gives joy to Devaki. Nanda, endowed with more prema, is most fortunate. You let him alone experience the sweetness of your infant or Kumara pastimes. Nanda Gopa Kumara. Yashoda with abundant prema is most fortunate. They're all most fortunate. And then verse 31. We're not going to get to verse 31. But she, Kunti, has this very special appreciation for Mother Yashoda, rightly so. She doesn't understand. She says that she doesn't understand the love of Mother Yasoda. It's too high. Continuing his commentary, the pastimes of your Kaishora age have even more sweetness than the Kumara pastimes. So Kunti is addressing Krishna as Govinda. Krishna got the name Govinda at the beginning of his Kaishora age after he was bathed by the Surabhi cow. You take possession, or Vinda, of all the senses, Go, of all people. So the possessor of the senses, Govinda. Now most of you know, let's put it in a negative, does anybody not know the pastime of Surabhi giving Abhishek to Krishna at the time of the Govardhan Leela? Anybody not know? Okay, you all know. Okay, good. So when the Surabhi offered Abhishek to Krishna, she said, actually Indra is not our Lord. You are Indra. And so we want to consider you our Lord, and so we would like to call you from this point forward Govinda, our Lord, the Lord of the cows. There's the Abhishek of Airavata, the elephant carrier of Indra, and the same painting, they weren't at the same time, there's Surabhi offering her milk, performing Abhishek of little Krishna after the lifting of Govardhan Hill. So Govinda gives pleasure to the cows and the senses, or he's possessor of the senses of all people, Govinda. There's many names of that meaning, Govinda. The enjoyers of this form of Krishna are not mentioned because of their extraordinary nature, the esoteric nature of this love, and the lack of qualification of others to taste it. This is Vishwanath Chakrabarti Thakur is noted for being a very rasika bhakta. he relishes tastes by his very nature, and his commentaries disclose his heart and his nature. So he's often quoted, and he gave commentaries on almost all the verses of Srimad Bhagavatam, which is very special. Jiva Goswami did that also, but Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur did that also, and very sweet. So we're going to cover one more verse. We covered 20 and 21. And now here's another one of the verses that's just names of Krishna. And she's chanting Krishna's name. She's doing kirtan.
Nama Pankajanabhaya, Nama Pankajamaline, Nama Pankajanetraya, Namaste Pankajangraye. Nama Pankajanabhaya, Pankajamaline, Nama Pankajanetraya, Nama Pankajanabhaya, Nama Pankajamaline, Nama Pankajanetraya, Namaste Pankajangraye. Nama Pankajanabhaya, Nama Pankajamaline, Nama Pankajanetaya, Namaste Pankajangraye.
Translation. My respectful obeisances are unto you, O Lord, with whose abdomen is marked with a depression like a lotus flower, who are always decorated with garlands of lotus flowers, whose glance is as cool as the lotus, and whose feet are engraved with lotuses. So Pankaja or Panka means mud, and Ja means to generate or take birth. Panka Ja. Panka means mud. So mud isn't like glorious. But a Pankaja, the lotus that is generated from Panka, is very, very nice. Prabhupada, if we see a lotus flower, we can immediately remember Krishna. Just like if you love your child, if you see any garment, a small ship, shoes, or any playthings, immediately remember your child. Oh, this is my child's shoes. This is my child's playthings. This is his garment. So it is the custom of love. Now, I remember when I read this, my thoughts went to something that I experienced as a young boy growing up. It was a fashion. Now it's not. Different things are fashion. But at that time, it was a fashion that persons that owned a car would tie to the rear view mirror of their car the baby shoes of their child. The child is no longer baby. But it became like it was a thing. It was very common. Not everybody, but very common. So the shoelaces, little tiny shoes hanging from the rearview mirror. So you look in the rearview mirror and you see the shoes. You see the shoes and you see your child or remember your child. So family affection. Natural. And so Panka Ja for Kunti is this. It's the lotus aspects of Krishna. So let's go through one by one. Nama Pankaja Nabhaya. Prabhupada's words. Krishna's navel is just like lotus flower. from the navel of Krishna, there was a stem of lotus flower. And from that lotus flower, Brahma came out. And Brahma created this universe. This universe means so many planets, so many seas, mountains, cities, motor cars, everything. Within that lotus, the beginning is found. So she, in her poetic way, because it's a literary ornament, alliteration, repeating the same consonant sound again and again, what to speak of the same word again and again. It's a literary, or it's an alankar. It's a classic way of composing choice poetry. So here's a nice painting. There's Garbhodakshay Vishnu generating from his navel a lotus stem, and then a lotus flower, and then Brahma for his purpose of creating the universe. Nice painting. So that's the first. Then the second, Nama Pankaja Maline. Pankaja. We already heard Pankaja. Here is a garland. There's so many flowers. Krishna is not so poor that simply producing one lotus flower he's finished. No. There's a garland of lotus flowers. Big garland. And as many lotus flowers as you want. This is God. Nama Pankaja Maline. So Krishna likes, and people like to decorate Krishna with lotus flowers. He's wearing one. He's holding one. By his feet are lotus flowers. Radharani likes to offer Krishna similarly. Krishna doesn't look like a lotus garland, but that's okay. She likes offering garlands to Krishna too. And the third, Nama Pankaja Netraya. His Krishna's eyes are compared to the petals of a lotus flower. Krishna's eyes are compared to the petals of a lotus flower. We recite on many occasions, we recite the verses of Lord Brahma, and this is one of them. Alola Chandrakala Sadvanamal Yavangshi. He likes the garlands that are produced from the lotus flowers, and his eyes are shaped like lotus petals. And then the fourth, this is part of the glorification of Kunti. His feet are marked with lotuses. Namaste Pankajangraye. Namaste Pankajangraye. Very celebrated ISKCON devotee, Pankajangri, named following this verse. So, here's a drawing of the markings on the soles of Radharani's feet. And we see the lotus is on both the left and the right foot. And there's lots of very interesting marks on her lotus feet. Goad for controlling elephants, and flag, and so many nice things. So many nice things. And here's Radharani's lotus feet. Now, what's the occasion? Normally we don't see the lotus feet of Srimati Radharani, but there's one day per year that we can see the lotus feet of Srimati Radharani. What's that one day?
Tuesday.
Huh?
Tuesday.
No. Gopastami. Gopastami. One day per year.
One Tuesday.
Nice try. Gopastami, just a pastime, Krishna's pastime. One time, Krishna was being checked from seeing Radharani, and he was feeling a lot of anxiety. He wanted to be with Radharani. But Jatila was preventing Radharani from leaving the house. Jatila is the mother Radharani's mother-in-law. Mother-in-laws can be strident sometimes. She was definitely like that. She said, I'm hearing all these rumors that Krishna comes and meets with my daughter-in-law, so I'm just going to prevent my daughter-in-law from leaving. I mean, it's a very nice pastime. So she told her daughter, Kutila, I'm not going to let Radharani out of the house. Kutila said, how are you going to do that? Because we all look up to Mother Yashoda, and Mother Yashoda wants your daughter-in-law, wants Radha to come and cook for Krishna, because when she was little, Radharani got a benediction for Devasa Muni. He liked her cooking so much, he gave her a benediction. Anyone that eats your cooking, they'll live a long life and they'll have good health. So Mother Yashoda made this request even before Radha was married. And so every day, she comes in the morning and up the hill of Nandagram, she cooks for Krishna. And then she got married. So what are you going to tell Mother Yashoda? And because we look up to her, we don't disrespect or disobey. So it was a good question. She said, I've just decided. Just tell her, I've just decided. So you inform her. You inform Mother Jasoda. She's not leaving the house. She'll cook something. And Dhanishta can carry that something that she cooks, and Krishna can eat each morning. There. That was the solution. So Krishna's in anxiety, transcendental pastime anxiety. He can't meet with Radha. So he, Krishna, told his dear friend Subal, please do something, somehow, do something so that I can meet with Radharani. How is it possible? She's standing with a stick at the front door. She won't let anybody in, won't let Radharani out. How is this going to happen? He said, you just figure it out somehow. So Subal figured it out. What Subal did was, because Subal has not Subal, Sridham. Sridham or Subal? Huh? Huh?
It was a team effort.
No, that doesn't work. Because Sridham is her brother, Radharani's brother. So it was Subal. Anyway, figure out how to make an arrangement I can meet with Radha. So he had a plan. And his plan was he has complexion, fair complexion, golden-like complexion like Radha. And sometimes there's jokes that he would dress like Radha and confuse people thinking that he's Radha when he wasn't Radha, it's just Krishna's coward boyfriend. So he went carrying a calf. He went nearby Jatila's home, or Radharani and Jatila's home, and let the calf loose. And came to Jatila and said, I'm looking for my calf. He said, look, you're the friend of that naughty Krishna, get out of here. He said, well, wait a minute, the calf may have wandered into the house. Let me just go and see if the calf is in the house. He said, okay, hurry up. Come back out if you find or you don't find. So he went inside and he found Radharani. He told Radharani the plan. The plan was, we're going to change clothes. You dress in my clothes, I'll dress in your clothes. And she said, and then you can carry the calf across your chest, and you pretend that you're Subal, you found the calf. And then you can go meet with Krishna because he's wanting to meet with you. She liked the plan. And sure enough, she then went and met with Krishna. And then so she, Radha, still dressed like Subal, and came to where Krishna was, and Krishna was crying. And he looked at Subal and said, "Oh, my heart is broken. I can't meet with Radha." And then Radha said, this is nice pastime. Radha said, "Well, if you like," as if Subal, "I can make an arrangement for you to meet with Chandravali," who was Radharani's competitor. Radha said, "I can arrange for you to meet with Chandravali." And Krishna said, "No, I only want to be with Radha." She was very pleased. Who can imagine? And then she revealed, "I'm not Subal, I'm Radha." So Krishna is now happy because he got to meet with Radha. So on that day, called Gopastami, on our ISKCON altars, probably elsewhere too, by the side of Krishna instead of Radha is Radha dressed like Subal. And because Radha is dressed like Subal, she shows her feet. Normally Radharani doesn't show her feet. But one day of the year, and it wasn't a Tuesday, one day of the year, Radharani shows her feet. So there's Radharani's feet on Gopastami. Commentary by Vishwanath. I am also counted among the fortunate, for you give happiness to my eyes. This is Kunti. My eyes, receiving sight of your navel, garland, eyes and feet, become pleasantly cool. I was in all ways wretched, Kunti. You were merciful to me because you're the friend of the most fallen. I was not like fortunate Devaki, who had prema for you. So she, again, Kunti is speaking as if she's an unqualified person. She's offering prayers. Queen Kunti's prayers are filled with humility and a lot of ecstasy and a lot of profound realization about Krishna and his relationships with others, other devotees besides herself, Kunti. So I think I'm going to end there. Tomorrow evening at your home, right? Tomorrow evening is at his home. So we'll continue with Queen Kunti's prayers. Krishna permitting. That's my plan anyways. We'll see what Krishna permits. Any discussion on the topic of Queen Kunti? Oh, yeah.
Does she appear in Gaura Leela? And who is she?
Does Kunti appear in Gaura Leela? Good question. Probably, but I don't know. I'd have to research it. Does anyone in the room know? It's easily researchable. Yes?
Thank you, Guru Maharaj. So recently, one of my close relatives, she passed away, just about a week or so back.
Oh.
So, in listening to your lectures on Queen Kunti, one of her prayers to Lord Krishna is, if I remember correctly, is to take away the material portion of her affection towards her near and dear. Right. Yeah. So I find the last few days very interesting because, when I see my relative as someone that I had a material relationship with, there's a lot of emotions, it's all very real. And while it's intense, it also brings me closer to this person, right? But when I take away that material portion and
What's
think
left?
of her as a spiritual being, part of Krishna, definitely feels like I'm moving to a higher platform, but the real emotions, they seem to go away. You kind of lose that closeness, if you will, when you switch to that spiritual platform. So I'm wondering, is there particular way, based on Queen Kunti's teachings, her own life, is there a particular way to grieve passing away of a close relative that is both meaningful, at the same time truthful or real, given our current situation? Not sure if I were clear.
No, you are.
Okay.
There's several things. One of those several things is our affinity is not so much for the spirit soul as for the coverings, both the body and the mind, or the subtle covering. And our identification with a person, not just relative, just someone, is very much on that physical, subtle, or gross physical platform. Grieving for loss on that platform is human. I mean, animals also grieve, humans also grieve the loss of someone that's close to them from that, the physical, gross and subtle platform. So your question specifically is how to pass through that grieving period where you don't become numb or depersonalized, while at the same time, there's the grieving becomes the higher kind of grieving, where it's transcendental grieving. That's what I understand you're asking. There's a principle that works if one has, has the spiritual conception of life, and if one has a capacity to direct the mind with spiritual intelligence. So the emotion is not the problem, or it's not to be stopped, but to redirect that emotion to the spiritual platform is my answer to your question. So how do you redirect your emotion to the spiritual platform when you're not there yet? It's notional. It's something one can say, and it's not quickly done. But gradually, through spiritualization of consciousness, then the grieving can be the same. The same. I mean, looking at least the same, and with a transcendental feeling instead of the loss of something on the material platform. I mean, here's a practical example. In the departure of Srila Prabhupada, because this was something that impacted our whole society, how to have a spiritual feeling of loss. That it's not that those feelings shouldn't be there; those feelings should be there, and to a certain degree, there's the loss of the person, Prabhupada in this particular example, that we used to have, whatever those relationships used to be, and now they are no longer. They're the physical ones. And the grief is intense. I mean, I'm remembering specifically. I was a temple president in the temple in Manhattan, 55th Street Temple, when we got the word that Prabhupada had left. So we went to the temple room to have kirtan, and I was trying to lead kirtan, but I couldn't. I was too choked up. And it was, it was a transcendental emotion, for sure. But the consciousness wasn't on the platform of pure bhakti, but the loss elevated consciousness more to the spiritual platform, because it was very clear Prabhupada's body was going. It's not going to be with us physically. So then my response to your question is, having, as much as you can spiritualize your conception of who the person is, then the absence of that, who the person is, besides the physical, subtle or gross physical, is a spiritual separation and spiritual grief. But then the realization, to the degree that one becomes mature, it's something like the feeling that Arjuna expressed to Yudhisthira when he came back to Hastinapur to inform him that Krishna left. And he couldn't speak it. So he spoke so many things. And then when he got relief from the being smashed kind of emotion, to remember the words that Krishna spoke to him on the Kurukshetra battlefield. And then he started to feel energized again, or revitalized. So the purpose is not to avoid grief. The purpose is to spiritualize it. And how to spiritualize our sense of another person when there's, specifically to your question, there's a sense of loss. Now, whether they're spiritually advanced persons or not, in the case of Prabhupada, certainly. In the case of other persons, not necessarily, or, less, but probably, spiritual personality. That you can connect with the person on the spiritual plane, remembering them, their activities, their teachings, their character that was on the spiritual platform. I'm thinking at the moment, because I was not so long ago on the West Coast, and I met a family that I've known for some time, more virtually than in person. And the family said the grandmother taught them daily just songs and verses. And because it wasn't like just because she wanted to be the grandmother teacher, she just had love for Krishna. And that love that her grandmother passed on to her is still with her, and she's passing it on to her children. They're different than her. They're different than the grandmother, but they have some feeling. So it's just intergenerational feeling for great grandma from her grandma. So when the spiritual activities and spiritual connection is made strong, then the sense of loss can be handled much better, because you're not able to associate with grandma anymore, or your friend or someone. But the activity, the spiritual activities that you have done together, and who they are, who they represent, wherever they may be today, is a warm memory. It's a way of mitigating the grief. So there's just a conceptual idea. That's the beginning. It's a foothold, but then do things that are in a mood of service with those persons, and it mitigates the feeling of the separation from those persons. The physical presence is no longer, but the spiritual presence can be strengthened by that remembrance of the spiritual activities and the spiritual position that one has engaged in. With that spiritual personality. So spiritualize the relationship now, and it helps significantly diminish the material portion of the grief. There's still a sense of loss because that person is not available as they were before. Enrich and strengthen the sadhu sangha activities with sadhus, and the grief experience, the material portion of the grief experience diminishes. Yeah. Anything else? Krishna Krishna. Nothing. Okay. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. To be continued.